Okay, these are the plates for the back of the badge. I've already done the top feed plate over here, and I'll just bounce all that out later. This is going to be the cavity plate. I've already drilled all the holes and the runner and the vent, and this is only going to be 1mm deep, but I'm going to start with the little clasp part of this, which should hold the safety pin and the battery, and I'll do that first because I need to check that everything looks like it's going to fit before we get too far in. So let's get it going. Okay, let's see how we've done. Right, with a bit of luck, the safety pin should slide down over that and end up about there. I think we'll get away with that. And then the battery or cell should go about there. No, back a bit, about there. Right, okay, well that seems to line up, so we'll now do the outside and get rid of some of these burrs, and that should be okay, I think, if I've got it the right way round. This is the top of the mould that does the back of the case. I haven't drilled through the holes yet, and this was going to be the front. Unfortunately, I was getting some really nasty burrs and also a little bit of a dog leg there, and the same at this end. I'm not 100% sure what was going on, but I suspect the bit was wobbling slightly. Perhaps it wasn't done up tight enough, so I called time on that one and started again on a fresh plate. I've already cut the feed channel, the runner and the gate and the vent at this end, and we'll see if this one works any better. 3mm cutter, 1mm deep. It should cut nice and clean, but I thought that last time. Anyway, let's take two. That looks a lot cleaner. A little bit of a burr, but that's easy to remove. Yep, much better than the original. So we'll press on with that and finish out the rest of that cavity. And here are all the completed plates. That's the main cavity for the badge, that's our surround plate, and that's our top plate with our feed point, and then we have the back of the badge with the slot for hopefully pushing the battery contacts together, and then the top plate just clicks on there, and there's no play in any of these plates, so everything seems to fit and align well. Plastic's already drying, so time to give it a mould and see if this thing actually works. I've had a quick test mould with a fairly soft plastic because that's what was in the machine, and there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that the battery does fit where I intended it, so I haven't got to remake that at least, and the back panel also is a pretty good fit. There are a couple of issues though. First of all, the screws are going a little bit too deep, so on the back of here I'm just going to add a small washer. I'm also getting a lot of shorting on the front because the plastic is flowing around to the edge and basically leaving a void here, and it's struggling to fill that. I have been getting pretty close, but I'm having to put the pressures up a considerable amount to get it to fill, and then I'm getting flashing. So to try and solve that, I've basically taken that front plate and added some extra vents on the top surface. I was relying on the one at the back, but clearly that's getting blocked off, so hopefully that will fix it, but if it doesn't, I don't know, but time will tell on that. Another issue that I've had to go in and solve is, although this flap is certainly narrow enough to permit an easy assembly of the safety pin, once you've got the safety pin in place, it's causing this to stand up slightly. So what I've done is recut the bottom plate. That was the original, and this is the replacement, and there is an extra ridge across here, so basically the safety pin will sit in a slot on the underside now, and in order to fill the mould on the other side of the plate, along with these little standoff washers for the screws, I've had to put a little bridge piece there, so this back section now will come across, up and then back down again, and should give that safety pin somewhere to actually drop into without causing this to lift. So we'll see if that works. The slight radiusing, tapering up on the sides may be just visible on camera, maybe not, but there is a very slight taper there, and that is certainly helping, because when I lift this surround plate, it's basically pulling it up off the core block, as I was hoping it would. So we're most of the way there. You can perhaps hear in the background the machine is warming up, so I'm going to give this another quick mould to see if I've solved a couple of these problems, and we'll take it from there. I've got to switch to a stiffer plastic at some point, probably the ABS that I'm planning on using, but we'll carry on with this soft stuff to begin with, just to make sure it works. Right, we've got a second batch of samples, this time in ABS, quite a bit more rigid, not quite perfect, still getting a few minor voiding issues here, so I think to fix that I'm basically going to need to make this top surface, which does feel a little bit flimsy, make that a bit thicker so that we've got more flow going over the top. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do that by machining this core down a fraction, because that's going to reduce the space for the battery. So what I'm going to have to do is, on the top plate, where you can just about see the outline of the ghost, is pocket that down, say about 1 millimetre, and that will just thicken up the top and hopefully get the flow over to this edge and get rid of that venting problem once and for all. The backs are looking quite good. The little bridge piece that I put in and the undercut slot on the rear, that's working quite nicely, so that's holding the safety pin in pretty well, and that clips in on the back, so that's pretty good. I think I need to make the pins for these slightly smaller so that the screw can actually bite into the plastic more, so that means aligning this base plate and just cutting around these pins maybe 1/4 millimetre all the way around, just to make them a bit smaller so that the holes are thinner. And I'm also going to put one of these bosses at the top here, just so that the top bit has got something to rest against when it's in the case. At the moment it can fold down, so we'll add that as well. But yeah, it's looking pretty close. I've got some more material drying, so I'll pocket that ghost shape out for the top, modify these pins on the core plate, and then we'll have another go at moulding it. Astonished, astounded and amazed all at the same time, but it looks like we've actually got a result. The machine needs a bit of a clean out. I'm picking up quite a bit of black specks coming through, and I haven't quite got rid of the sink marks on the front. You can just about catch them in the light where the bosses are. Needs a bit of a polish, which I'll do tomorrow, but the LEDs go in quite well, the battery goes in quite well, the safety pin catch is extremely good. I'm quite pleased with that. This pin on the back that I put in to correspond with this boss here, I think that might need to be either a bit deeper or a bit thicker, but anyway it sort of clicks in, and then the screws bite quite well. If I can get that lined up, there we go. tiny little screws, but they're the only ones I could find that were a 6mm shank on them. So if that screws in there, and it's biting into the bosses quite well now, so taking that little edge cut off certainly made a big difference. And they're not too difficult to put in, so tighten that one up. I could drill that through and put one in there, which is why I put the extra washer feature on the back, but I think we can get away without that. I haven't yet added the bit on the underside to press against the battery, so I'll need to just run a ball nose across there, but otherwise that's quite an intense little ghost badge. So we have red, green and blue ghosts, and all I've got to do now is mould 200 of these after I've cleared the machine out, and get ready for the Maker Faire, which is very, very soon. So anyway, I think I'll call that a job done for tonight, and tomorrow I'll just get up mould a polish and then we'll run off some stock. And about 5 hours later, here are all of our ghost badges. We've got a little over 200 of the cases. I've still got to just brush off the vents and obviously de-sprue those and cut the edge off with a knife, but that's not a major deal. And a little over 200 of the back panels to go with them. So again, they're going to need a little bit of a tidy up on the gate, but otherwise they moulded okay and they've come out nice and clean, and they seem to fit. So tomorrow we shall take them to the Maker Faire and see what people think of them.
This way up on
in full swing.
in the middle. Ready?
Everybody
That's it.
is buying ghost badges. Well, I made it back from the show pretty exhausted. It was quite busy. In fact, that's all I got left. Out of 400 LEDs, I think I've got less than a dozen, if that, and a couple of badges left over. So yeah, we shifted pretty much the whole 200, and it was non-stop. They were queuing up for these things. Quite a lot of creative designs, and kids running around everywhere with flashing light ghost badges. I'm glad it's not on next year, because yeah, that was a lot of hard work. But anyway, it went well, so another project successfully completed.